caught in a dilemma. If they stop the inflating, we have a recession or a depression. You know the difference between a recession and a depression? A recession is if your neighbor is out of work. A depression is if you're out of work. The government just doesn't call them depressions anymore. They call them recessions. It doesn't sound as bad. But inflation, once you start inflating, you keep on inflating more and more and more, and things get worse and worse and worse. And then you have people screaming for controls. This is what inflation causes. It causes controls, rationing, and higher taxes. You watch now. There's a lot of talk now about, well, we got to have higher taxes to take some of this money out of circulation. Which, of course, is a total fraud. What they're saying is, we'll take the money away from you and let the government spend it. It's all right if the government spends it, but it's bad if you spend it, type of thing. Well, we know from history and even from the last 6 months or a year that controls don't work. To stop inflation, the government has to stop the printing presses. They've got to stop the money machine. They've got to balance the budget. If we do that, we will have a recession. Because everybody now is hooked on the more and more money being put in circulation. Now, a politician looks at it this way. Unemployment is worse than inflation. And I don't care what happens as long as the cauldron explodes after I'm out of office. Pass it on to the next guy. Try to keep the thing going on some sort of a basis until I'm out of office. That's why these Fabian Socialists that came in under Franklin D. Roosevelt with the Keynesian system knew that once they got the country started on it, it would be almost impossible to get us off. Even if you change administrations and the Democrats go out and the Republicans come in, you don't start with a clean slate. The new guy inherits all of the problems that the old guy had. So Richard Nixon, instead of deciding to take his medicine, it's kind of like the Democrats got to go out on the binge, and Richard Nixon would have to take the hangover. And Nixon said, I don't want to take the hangover, I'm going to go off on another binge. Let the next guy have the hangover. And this goes on and on and on until eventually the thing destroys itself. So, as far as what you people can do to understand what is going on, you can make tremendous progress in recruiting. I don't think that the John Birch Society has ever had as great an opportunity for recruiting as it has right now, because the wages and prices going up, what people think is inflation, is hitting almost everybody. These shortages, which are directly related to inflation, are hurting everybody. Now people are willing to listen. Now almost everybody knows something's wrong. And we can explain to them what is wrong. I have a very close friend who majored in economics at Stanford. He's a millionaire, he's a major contractor. He builds 500-unit apartment buildings. And he told me the other day, he said, I did not understand money until I joined the John Birch Society. Now, people want to understand money. So we have a tremendous opportunity. It is the Fabian Socialists, the people who admit that they are a conspiracy to set up a socialist world, who gave us the Keynesian economics that have caused the runaway inflation that we're having now and the shortages, the scarcities that we're having. There are two books that I would heartily recommend that you read. The most important book, I think, and when I was just beginning in the conservative movement, I read this book 4 times. It's called Keynes at Harvard. It's put out by a group of Harvard alumni. It is not the easiest book to read, but there is nothing in here that is beyond your comprehension. It is just a fairly small type, and there's a whole lot of names in here and whatnot, but I think this is just about the most important book there is to read. Another book, a great handbook for the Fabians, is Fabian Freeway by Rose Martin, which goes into the history of the Fabians, particularly in the United States, the organizations which they control, the people that have been very important in the Fabian movement. I haven't thrown a lot of names at you this morning because I don't think that that's all that important. It's their philosophy that is important and how successful they've been. I'll throw it open to questions now, if everybody's sufficiently confused. Yes? Well, again, we get into this thing. The idea of the multiplier was, in Keynes' theory, that, for instance, if you deficit spent $1, by the time it got going through an economy in which there was unemployment, that $1 would create $4 worth of new jobs, new assets, and whatnot. And I think we can just tell by looking at the economy, we've had all this fantastic deficit spending. Since Keynes' theories first came in, we've had something like $350 billion of deficit spending, and if that all created 4 times that amount of new jobs and new assets, there would be absolutely no unemployment, and we'd all be rich. I mean, obviously, it's a theory that is false. If you want to get into the technical aspects of that, there is a very good book that dissects Keynes from an economist standpoint by Henry Hazlitt, Hazlitt, in which he goes into that multiplier theory to quite a great extent. But that sounded great to people today. Gee, you mean if we spend $1, we create $4 worth of new goods and stuff? Let's try it. And they've tried at $350 billion worth, and we're worse off than we were.